Hello to you all. Welcome. As the audience builds, we're in that awkward stage whenever you do a live stream where you're like, oh, if I just talk, maybe a few people will check it out and then we can get started. But I'm just going to get right to it and let you all know that as part of the Eric Zane Show podcast, it's a really important day today. It is National Donate Life Living Donor Day. April 7 is the day that actually takes place. And I talked to my friends from Gift of Life Michigan, and they said, hey, how about we do something where we talk about it on this special day, do a live stream, do a podcast, video podcast, and talk about it, and go at it that way. And oh, by the way, can we have a special guest, Eric? So I'm going to introduce you to the players of our special day for this podcast today, and then we will discuss a lot of fun things and amazing things that are going on right now to hopefully build some hope and awareness for living kidney donation and organ donation in general. So I'm going to start, first of all, by introducing you to Val Cobbs from the National Kidney Foundation, Michigan, Grand Rapids Senior Regional Manager. Val, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here, and I'm looking forward to getting to know more about what exactly it is you do for the National Kidney Foundation, how you came to be, and just what people can do to help out. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay. This next guest is Alison Gillum. She is with Gift of Life Michigan. You are the Community Relations Coordinator. Welcome to the show.
That's correct. Thank you so much for having us. Thanks for doing this. This is great.
The pleasure is mine. I told you, Alison, that this was kind of in the back of my head when I started thinking about kidney, or when I committed to kidney donation. I thought, boy, this would be something, but I don't even know where to begin in terms of helping spread the word other than just my little corner of the podcasting and live streaming world. When you came out of the woodwork and said, hey, I'd like to introduce myself, I'm telling you, it all just came together and clicked in my head. So thank you very much for that.
Yes, it was all meant to be.
Yeah. And how did you come about finding out? Was it the Wood TV8 story?
I feel like there were like 10 stories really in the media about this. So it was hard. I was seeing it everywhere I looked, basically. And I was like, I've got to reach out. This is so perfect. So, okay. Yeah.
That's great. Well, I can't wait to discuss many things with you guys. But first of all, I want to take care of this. This has been a long time coming. And 4 months and 5 days ago, the gentleman that is with us, Cousin O Patriot, the one and only Jeffrey DeChaussee, film producer, director, and writer, received one of my kidneys. Jeffrey, welcome back to the show.
Oh man, thank you so much. All this is just like, I don't know, it's shocking in a way.
You are you're 30 pounds heavier than in 4 months. You look like $1 million. I am just so excited to see you. Oh my gosh. What a time we
think clearly now too. Yeah.
What a time we had, Jeffrey. I mean, what an adventure. Can you I would just like to pick your brain because you had been through a very, very traumatic scenario where your life was flashing before your eyes, and then out of the blue, this happens. Can you kind of encapsulate what you've experienced in a nutshell, from when it all started to actually getting the kidney and your life just suddenly taking hold again?
Well, I think in the beginning, hearing that you're going to need a transplant is really, it's just surreal. It really is. I knew that I had kidney issues and they were kind of maintaining them. And then there was like this percentage of if they would fail, if they wouldn't fail, and could we maintain the GFR, et cetera. And the GFR is kind of like your functioning rate. And mine was kind of dipping. And then, I heard the news, and it's just surreal because, it's something that's like life as you know it is going to change, and it's not going to be for the better. It's going to be painful. And suddenly, you have this responsibility on your own back of trying to figure out how to save your life. It's interesting because I was on the phone today with a friend of mine that I went to school with, and she said, "Oh, our friend Mary, she's they found a lump in her breast, and they're gonna start doing chemo on her." And I'm like, okay, well, I'll start praying for her, and we talk and all that kind of stuff. But when you have a kidney diagnosis of when it's going to fail, they say, "Hey, what do I say? What do I do?" They go find a donor or get on the list. So it's put right back into your hands. Okay. Yeah. So I'm the kind of person that I'm obsessed with solving problems, right? That's what I do for a living. And I try not to create them. Sometimes I do, but I like to solve them. And I was just like, okay, I just didn't know how to do it. There's no hand. They give you like these books and literature, and you can talk to people, but it's like, okay, you know that you're sick, and you've got T-minus X amount of months before you're going to go on dialysis, and you got this timeline, and you're learning about this process, and it's overwhelming, and all the states are different, and it's just a very convoluted process, and there's really no help. Actually, I think there's a gap in the system where there's an opportunity for people to kind of be guardian angels for people suffering from kidney disease, much like you guys are, in helping in a certain stage. But it was just overwhelming, and I think it really just was shocking. And I was just, I kind of say scrambling for life,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you told me, Jeffrey, about the hours hooked to the dialysis machine, what life is like for a person like that, it painted a very, very scary and bleak picture for the hundreds of thousands, if not more, Americans and people around the world who have this type of outlook that they're kind of stuck. So enter organizations like Gift of Life Michigan and the National Kidney Foundation. So, okay, you end up getting the kidney, Jeffrey, and now as you are recovering, 4 months since the surgery, can you take everybody through how you are feeling right now and how this has helped you?
Oh God, I feel alive. I felt dead, or just kind of like, I don't want to say dead, but like hopeless, and just exhausted from trying to stay alive. And I think that's one thing that I just, it's so hard to jump to now. And I appreciate you want to talk about that, but I think the process of trying to find somebody to help me was so much of a roller coaster ride. And I think that's one of the things that, when I first met with the counselors at UCLA, and I actually I went into, even going into dialysis saying, I have a donor. Because my sister was going to do the match system with me, and not a lot of people know. And I'm sure both of you guys, Val and Alison, could talk about the match system. I know we're talking about living donation, but my sister wasn't a match, but she could donate a kidney, and in the system they would match me up with somebody. And but then she had medical issues, so then I had somebody else. So I had a chain of people. I'm blessed. I mean, I can't even tell you. And I think I think I'm a loving soul, so I think karma in the world came back in a way, but it was just a process of people stepping forward. And just because you step forward doesn't mean you're going to give a kidney, because there's a process to the kidney. But that stepping forward to get, to see if you're a candidate was a major roller coaster for me, because my best friend, they found cancer on his kidney. He was going to donate a kidney to me, and they found cancer on his kidney, so he saved his life by trying to save my life.
That's incredible. That part of the story. Whenever you tell me that, I'm always like, oh my gosh. And Jeffrey, our story has lots of twists and turns. You and I have only scratched the surface on it. I mean, it really is fantastic. So and we've touched on it a few times in the past, and I'm sure we will plenty more in the future. But that part of it is absolutely incredible. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk with you about, Val Cobbs from the National Kidney Foundation. Can you maybe take us through what it is can be done for people that are in Jeffrey's position? I mean, is it, because a lot of times the average person doesn't ever really know where to begin on this. There is something they can do to just get tested, and that could maybe lead to something further down the road. Isn't that right?
It is right. And Jeffrey, I appreciate your story and your explanation so much, because I do believe that you're absolutely right. The process that you shared is right. And I do think when you have somebody who isn't feeling the best, who's also terrified, right? Because the end result of not getting a kidney is death if you're not dialyzing, and dialysis doesn't last forever. So you're absolutely right there. And it is ultimately put back into their hands. And that's kind of the designed by the transplant world. And so working really closely with your transplant team, they give you, like he said, you get some literature, you get a little book on how to ask. And one of the things that we're doing at the Kidney Foundation is the Big Ask, Big Give, which is a seminar to train persons in Jeffrey's situation on how to feel comfortable with asking. What I love about Jeffrey, and he was very blessed, like you said, you have a great spirit, and karma came back to you that you had all of these people who were willing. Sometimes persons who are in need of transplants, in need of kidneys specifically, are afraid or embarrassed to ask for the help.
Right.
And so they go on dialysis and they stay there and linger when they do have people that love them in their lives who are willing. So it is really about empowering yourself and then educating those who love you, because it can look quite scary. And so when I look at Eric, I think he is the prime example of what you can give back to the world and what you can give to help a person live another day. And the kidney is the ultimate organ. There's some, you got to be dead to give them. This one, you can live abundantly and see the fruits of your gift every day walking around. I saw a comment just a minute ago about Jeffrey looking suave, and I thought how wonderful that is.
No, he really is. Yeah.
When you're dialyzing, you don't look the best.
No. Oh my God.
Skin changes, you're looking leathery, you are exhausted, you're itchy, you're cold, all of the things. And then the exhaustion from day to day can be overwhelming, put you in a space where you're wondering, why am I doing this every day? And you can end up in hopelessness. So to have somebody love you and care enough to say, I want to do something to give you one more day, is phenomenal. So I think that process is beautiful. Work with your transplant team. Jeffrey kind of hit upon it, because there are multiple lists that you can go on, and then you got to follow what they say. So a lot of people end up kind of in this blame cycle of, I didn't get the kidney for this reason, they gave it to that person for this reason, and not necessarily taking accountability for the power that we have over our health, and realizing there are some things you got to do. The renal diet's not fun, but I want to live, so I'm going to follow this diet, right? I'm going to stick very closely with watching potassium and phosphorus, which are issues when you're on dialysis. So I want to watch that very closely. I want to learn what that is, because I want to be the best candidate for transplant. I know Alison will talk too about all of the things you can do. Jeffrey talked about his sister. She wasn't a match for him. Can she be a match for somebody else? And then that cycle of life and the circle of life can go in a different way than a person-to-person match by family or loved one, but it can look differently. And so there are those options out there where we can get the best outcome for those we love.
Wow. You're awesome. And I want to run through a wall. You are so good at what you do. My gosh. Oh, you just got it. That is what you just said is so terrific. And I'm so glad that people like you exist. Thank you, Val. Alison, can you tell me what do you do at Gift of Life Michigan? I mean, how can you affect life for a person like Jeffrey? Take me through what you do too, and working with people like Alison and Jeffrey.
Yeah. So first of all, I mean, I'm supposed to follow up Val, so I hope nobody has like high expectations right now. So,
oh my God,
don't worry.
No, you're gonna do great. You're gonna do great.
Tough act to follow. No, we're talking so much about living donation. At Gift of Life Michigan, we actually facilitate the deceased donation process, right? So we are the federally designated organ and tissue recovery program for the state of Michigan. And we work really closely with hospitals, unfortunately, and the family members of people who have loved ones pass away and become donors. So we're really, we play a vital role in facilitating that process and making all organs available for transplant. That being said, we're huge proponents for living donation, right? We want to do whatever we can to make sure that all of these people with chronic kidney disease who are on the waiting list for a kidney can get one. And what an amazing thing, like Val was saying, you could get a kidney from a deceased donor, or you could get a kidney from a living donor. And the reason living donation is so important is it just really increases the chances for somebody to get that life-saving kidney transplant. I was reading that if you can find a living donor, and I know, Jeffrey, you had such a unique situation, but if you can find a living donor, you can probably get your kidney transplant in a year or less. Whereas if you're on the waiting list for a deceased donor here in Michigan, I think the average wait time is like 3 to 5 years. So this is a long time to be on dialysis suffering like that.
And so California, just to interject, Alison, California, 10 years. Okay.
See,
so I live in Los Angeles.
Worse.
Oh.
Right. So I had to learn about the process. And I think, that, I remember on my desk, literally, and I went through, before I did the process, I studied every current medical trial in the kidney world, in the renal world, and looked at, different countries and what they're doing, and looked at, stem cells. And I was in a spin. Okay. And so I had to kind of start to structure. So I started looking at California hospitals compared to UCLA. But the thing about it was it's still a 10-year waiting list. So what I had to do, and I hope anybody who's listening or will listen to this, is like to really understand what hospitals covered underneath your medical insurance. And also know that when you have stage 5 kidney disease, you're eligible for Medicare. Medicare pays for your kidney transplant. And it also pays for, I think, your donor's transplant in the system. I know my Medicare had to cover other things. I have both Medicare and UCLA coverage. My wife's a doctor at UCLA, which didn't help me at all. They all treated me well, but it didn't help me get a kidney. So I actually opened up the existing process of donation with Temple in Texas, because they had a 2-year waiting list. If you're healthy, you have to be healthy. That was one thing Eric and I did together as a team. We got healthy, as much as we could. I was doing the bike, he was running. We wanted to go into it being healthy. And so I went to Texas. I was actually in the system with Texas. And one of the donors I brought to UCLA, my very first person, who was denied at UCLA and approved at Texas. So I was going to go to Texas to get the transplant. He was a Marine who served 2 tours in Iraq and survived 7 roadside bombs. He's an actor. I worked with him before, and I knew he would understand. I knew he would understand survival. So I went to him first, and he was denied. And then Texas accepted him years later, because different hospitals have different requirements. I do believe, this is another conversation we could probably sidebar for a while, but certain hospitals are ranking themselves because they hold a certain ranking. They're much more selective to the people they choose. UCLA is number 2. They have a high success rate, so they're very picky. And I understand that their success rate is high, but it's not necessarily the most complex operation, which I think we could talk about. There are advancements, and it's actually a lot of hospitals all over the country do great jobs. Michigan has a lot of great hospitals. But what's really interesting, and I'm sorry to ramble, is that, and maybe you guys touch upon this, is just if you're a kidney recipient or looking to be a kidney recipient, you have to look at other states, because the system itself on a grander scale is kind of messed up. There should be a certain number of time that everybody waits for across the country and share the organs, compared to being state by state kind of chaotically in the wait times.
Val, can you speak to this, please?
Yeah, sometimes there's multiple reasons for that. So a lot of it, at least, and I can only speak for, my community. In my community, oftentimes the wait, which is actually it may be 5 to 7 years, so it's a lot longer, is based upon the person's health issues. So sometimes people have, if they've had transplant before, they have something called antibodies, which makes it more difficult to get and keep another kidney. So that's part of the reason. Also, somebody's financial constraints. So if you live in Grand Rapids and you have St. Mary's in your backyard, which is one of the top hospitals in the country on renal transplants, you're lucky, but they want to be on other lists. So maybe they go to U of M and they go to Ohio. The problem is can you afford to commute back and forth from there and have your donor commute back and forth there? So that becomes a barrier. And also part of the issue, Jeffrey, is once you're dialyzing, you qualify for Medicare. When you're in the process, you don't qualify for Medicare yet necessarily.
Yes.
So if you are poor, you will qualify for Medicaid and Medicare, but it still is limitations on what is covered and what isn't. So finances are often a barrier to, being able to gallivant across the country. So thank God for you, Jeffrey, you're able to do that. Some people aren't. And so then they have to work within the restraint of what their finances look like. So that's part of the problem.
Once you start dialysis, sorry to interrupt you, but once you start dialysis, it's hard to go and travel and to explore different cities. So
of course,
you're caught in a
and that
timeline.
becomes a limitation too. It's every other day you dialyze in 3 to 5 hours. For my uncle was a very large man. He dialyzed for 8 hours. So that was a very long time. And when he started, he dialyzed every day. That's how toxic his body was. So that is a limitation. And then when you're not dialyzing, you are super duper tired. So that puts, like you said, so many limits on what a person is able to do to help themselves. So you do wish that the system were different. What I do implore people to do is just the same thing you did, Jeffrey, even though you had the means to travel, was to educate yourself on what does this disease mean for me and how do I empower myself? Because you can be a poor powerhouse, and poor powerhouses get the work done. If they are willing to say, listen, I'm not going to die from this. They will do everything that they can to get it. And it does lessen their time, because what they do is get out in community and ask their church for a kidney, and they put an ad in the paper, they write it on the back of their car, and they might not have a dime, but they get a donor. So
I think you're so right. You're so right. I do want to say too, and I think it is. Basically, you're hustling for your life, okay? And it's exhausting while you're going through dialysis, while you're contacting hospitals. But the thing about it, even with Texas, I never had to go down. I was supposed to go down, but I had the majority of all the work done here in Los Angeles. So I was prepping myself to go to get approved. But the thing about it is that people really do want to help you. In the hospitals, like everybody, there's a lot of compassion when you're dealing with the renal departments and the coordinators. But it's a full-time job while trying to work, raise a family. And so I'm very compassionate, but I think, hope is this incredible thing, and it carries you through it. It's an amazing thing. Hope is everything. So, to bring it back on a positive note, not complain about things, but, I think, I just want to encourage people that when they're going through the process that, just to stay resilient and, during the process, because it's emotionally exhausting. Okay.
Now let me ask you this, guys. It's kind of strange, because I've oftentimes said that, being that this is National Living Donor Day, it's a tough thing to ask somebody to say, hey, why don't you, even if for someone who's listening or watching this, it's one thing if I'm telling them to get your car repaired at Irvine's. It's entirely different to say, hey, why don't you consider giving a kidney away to someone? How can you, how do we do this? This is, other than just saying, hey, would you please, if you feel me and hear what I'm saying, and you take a look at Jeffrey, who is alive right now, and you look at these faces for all these people that are Val and Allison, who are working hard trying to keep people alive. If you're hearing this or seeing it, would you please think about getting tested just to see if this is something right for you? Because frankly, you might not be. It's a pretty strict set of protocols. You might not be, but if you just try it, something might click in your brain during that process that might make you want to take the next step. And you can stop it whenever you want. I mean, honestly, when I was laying in the hospital bed, they said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I go, "I do." "All right, sign this." I had to sign this document. And if I said, "I don't want to do it," I could have pulled my IVs out and flew home right there. So I don't know. I mean, is it too much on this day to ask something like that? That's what I'm asking.
And thank you for that, Eric. And I want to say that testing doesn't cost the person who's getting tested anything, because the person who's going to be getting the recipient who has the insurance will pay for your testing. And also, you know what? Like I talked about earlier, my friend Brian, God bless him, he went to test and he found out something about his health and it saved his life. So there's a beautiful karma to that.
Yep.
And I think, it's so hard just to go back to the initial point to ask somebody. I told very few people. I told my inner circle. I didn't go to Facebook. I didn't put a sign on my car because it was hard for me to admit I was wounded. I couldn't do it. I knew I could. I had to try on my own. I needed to do something. I didn't want to go broad with it. I think there was going to be steps to it. And everybody kept on saying, "You need to post something. You need to do this." And I slowly started sharing my story. And even with Eric, by the time I got to Eric, I was slowly doing it. I wasn't doing it on a grand scale. But I think what I've learned, if I didn't share my story with Eric, if I didn't tell him I'm sick, I need help, or I'm just in a position, I didn't even ask him for anything. I just told him where I was. And I shared my story of how I was feeling, what I was going through, and then he felt it, and he had this compassion to think about it. So I think that's the first part. And we were talking in the very beginning, just to get back to it, like, how did you hear, Alison, about our story? They were sharing our story. Yeah. And that power of sharing a story, a human story, a story with, emotion and, something that's, touching humanity is what creates the energy for everybody. And, I think people should be very proud that they're going to stand up to test for somebody. I mean, this isn't my day. This is Eric's day. Eric's the brave person. Okay.
Well,
that's what it's bravery. It's love and bravery.
And I'm here to say that from my experience, my life has improved so much since this all began. I have a perspective now that I never had before. It's like it all just kind of made sense and opened up to me about, oh, this is what it's all about. And how incredible is it that at a time where every time I turn around, I'm seeing influences around me that says, you're on this side and you're on this side and we're supposed to fight. I've had the best year ever because I was involved with Jeffrey. Considering all the craziness that's gone on, he has helped me in so many ways. And I think that I can't stress that enough to anybody who is considering giving away an organ. You will be in such a great spot. And it's a fact. I did very little looking up about information about this. I didn't want to know, but I did find out that people who do what I do, they live longer. They actually live longer. And you're like, how could that be? Well, first of all, you only need one kidney. God gave you two to see who's going to give to see if you'll be the one to give the other one away. Right. Okay.
That's right.
All right. I'm going to give you two. I'm going to see. He's thinking to himself, I'm going to see if he's going to give one away. So do it.
What's really interesting, Eric, is that like in Argentina, which I love Argentina. I spent a lot of time in Argentina. God brought me there. I don't know why. I love it. It's mandatory. Well, it's not even mandatory. It's the law that if you pass away, your kidneys go to help somebody. Okay. I really wish, and I was thinking when Eric and I were talking about this, I was like, okay, what could be big thinking? Could Michigan be the first state to do this? Okay. That would be amazing to set this precedent for everybody else to follow. To be the broad shoulders, be the brave ones to say, hey, maybe we can do this. I really feel that, medicine today is so advanced, but it can't be advanced unless there's a human capacity to it. And I just think that, and I'm just, I feel like I learned about, the human spirit, human kindness. And it was like people in my circle, like even my friend who's one of my producers, his girlfriend, who I don't know, she tested for me. Like, it's not like this crazy, like, close relationship. And what's beautiful about the kidney, and we talked about this, Allison, is that the kidney doesn't care what color you are. Or like
Right.
An African-American person's kidney can go to a Chinese person. A Chinese person's kidney can go to an Indian person. An Indian person's kidney can go to a white person. And the kidney is just, we're all the same. Okay, we're all built of the same genetics, the same DNA. And that's what's beautiful about my sister's African American. She's adopted. She was going to give me a kidney, but then she wasn't the right. But she was going to give somebody else in the match system. And in the match system, my doctor, Dr. Veal at UCLA, told me that he one time lined up 20 people, and they were every nationality you could think of across the line. So that's what's beautiful. You're helping somebody. You may know them, you may not know them, but what you're doing is you're giving life. It's like, I can't think of another way besides having a baby to give somebody life.
Right.
Truly. Yeah.
Yep.
What we really need to do, though, is we need to normalize this, right? Like and I think you guys are doing an amazing job of that by sharing your story. I mean, if Eric Zane can donate a kidney, I think, and like any of us can, right? So, no, I'm kidding. No, in all seriousness, we totally need to normalize this and take away some of the stigma and fear. And, you hear lots of different things like, people are so worried about what happens to me if I only have one kidney, or, like you want to reserve your kidney for someone in your family or someone else. But
it's a good question. It's a good question.
No, go ahead.
No, yeah, it's a very good question. And in this, can you cover that? Can you maybe cover that as to what how that works?
Well, I mean, I can speak to if you were to be a living kidney donor and you go into the process with 2 healthy kidneys, and the healthy remaining kidney that you have, if something should happen someday and it ends to fail, you will get to be kind of put at top status to receive a kidney transplant if you get one. But what I can say is, and I don't speak for transplant centers, but they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that if you sign up to donate a kidney while you're alive, that you are going to do well afterwards, that you're medically suitable to do that. And we're going to try to avoid things like that even happening. We can't foresee every possible thing, but people should be confident in knowing that this is a safe thing to do. And if something should ever happen, your chances of receiving a kidney transplant, if you get one, should be pretty good. Because they'll, kind of put you at top status for that. Right. But, and you talk about too, like maybe you want to help, but you don't know how or what to do. Right. And let's remind people that, like, you don't need to know who you're donating a kidney to. You can be an altruistic donor. You can just be that type of amazing person who's like, I feel like I just want to help one of these people on the waiting list for a kidney. And if you're 18 or older and you're in general good health, you can go to a local kidney transplant center and they would be happy to help you through this process. So that's the amazing thing about it too, is you don't even have to have any idea of who you're going to donate your kidney to.
In all honesty, with just a simple internet search, you can have an appointment made to test in 5 minutes. It's that simple. It really is. You just have to. This is from my perspective. From my perspective, I just said, I made up my mind. I'm going to do this. It wasn't, well, I'll think about it and I'll wait and I'll pray on it and I'll sleep on it. It was, Jeffrey told me in 1 minute, I said, this is going to happen, and that's the end of it. And I knew if I waited, I would be screwed, and so would he. And I said, I've put my foot down. And I think that is the way it has to strike you. It has to just hit you right between the eyes, and go on faith and just get it done. And for me, there wasn't one moment any more than just a fleeting moment where I had a couple of those where I was like, oh no, I'm a little scared, but then I would just kind of tuck that away and then don't listen to it. And outside of, a little bit of uncomfortableness after the procedure was done, I forget that I've had this done. I mean, it's that great. And I have so much to benefit because I get to see his beautiful face. He's 30 pounds heavier. Look how handsome he is. He's back to doing his craft. Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
truly, he has young school age kids and a beautiful wife, and I'm like, oh my God, what a blessing this is to see you thrive. Oh my God.
Thank you, man. I love you very much. I think that's something people need to realize is that, you know, you're not just helping that person, you're helping everybody in their family, their ecosystem. You know, you're helping my children and my wife. It's just, you know, it's really hard. It's hard on the caretakers for people, on the, the sons, the daughters, the wives who drive people to the dialysis, have to pick them up. You know, you're on a crazy schedule. You know, my life was just halted. You know, I was doing it 7 days a week, 7 hours a day. And then I went to hemo, and you know, you're just cold. It's really, you're taking somebody out of, you know, I gotta tell you, man, you know, we're all gonna die, but I think the best death is an instant death, because slowly dying and thinking about, am I gonna live or am I gonna die, is horrible. It's mentally exhausting. I have PTSD from this.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
It's how it is, you know, and I really like talking about this now. It is conjuring up a lot of emotion, you know, good and bad, you know. But yeah, you know, I really, you know, I think the thing people need to understand is it's a process. And if you say I'm going to give a kidney, or I'm interested in giving a kidney, or testing to give a kidney, or signing a donation card, my donor's card, it's probably, there's not a lot of thought into that one, because you're like, oh, I'm gone, I'm going to help somebody. I think there's no thought to it. There's no benefit. Your soul's going to go to the next space and galaxy and universe. But I think the living donation is really crucial for like me. I was like, I want a living donor. I want a living donor because it's hard. It's harder that way because you can wait. But I wanted to get the most out of life. I wanted to, like, you know, I enjoy living, I enjoy creating, I enjoy my family. I wanted to be around, and a living donor helps you have a longer period on this in life. Not that you know, deceased donation is bad, and it gives you a time frame as well. But also, I just think, you know, it would be nice to kind of go through this journey and have an appreciation for that person. It makes me more appreciative of the world to see it happen in a living donation, and have just more faith in humanity and more faith in people. And Eric and I, it's really interesting. We're very close now. Well, we weren't close for 20 years. Our lives are parallel.
32 years.
Yeah, whatever it was. I don't know. It's like yesterday when we got back together. But the thing about it is that it was just a very brave choice. And it wasn't just him. I always think his wife and his family, because it does take, you know, the support of your family. You know, his wife came out to help him in his recovery. And, you know, so, you know, it's an interesting conversation to have, but I think just have the conversation. I don't care if you choose to do it or you don't choose to do it. Sit down, have a conversation. And then, you know what? Get tested if you choose to take the next step. And if you get tested, you're not in it, and you may find out you can do it, and you may find out you can't do it. And if you can't do it, work on the things that are making you possibly, you know, like your cholesterol, your blood pressure, all these things that you can make you healthier. And you want to give somebody a kidney that's going to allow them to, you know, bloom after they receive it. So you want to be healthy. And if you decide to go through the next step, just think of it as all these little achievements to get to help somebody. Mm-hmm. And it takes a while. Like, you're going to have to do, geez, Eric, you can talk about some of the tests you did, but it's great because you're really checking on your health. You're thinking about helping it being. So there's a bit of a journey to it. It's something I think I'll never forget. I talked about the past, but like, I only remember, I try to only think about, like, it's hard not to think about the past, but I love thinking about these moments. And I was never been more scared and never been more brave in life than going through what I went through the past couple of years. And Eric was like, aren't you excited? I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know how, because I'm scared. I'm afraid they're going to yank you away from me. I'm afraid you're going to walk away from me. I'm afraid, you know, I don't know. There's so many unknowns, you know, maybe. And then at the end, like, he had a blood test come back, or a cardio test come back. And then, like, and God bless his soul, Eric, like, got the test. He was so worked up over it. He drove all the way into the city, convinced somebody to give him the test that day, and he got the test. So he did a lot on his part. You know, he showed up. He put the effort in, and that's just, you know, not that I want to say that it's time consuming, but it does take a little bit of time. But it's like, you know, it's that love and effort you're putting in to help somebody live. And that's what he did. And I'm really grateful for all that.
You know, that whole thing from beginning to end for me, I enjoyed it. I thought, because it was an adventure, I wrapped my mind around the whole concept of, it's like I'm living a movie, you know, and I had told you at the start of this, I go, this is going to work. And of course, I had no idea about the amount of what went into that and how much testing. But as all the testing went and unfolded, man, you're right. And some of the things I actually kept from you, like that one cardiac thing, it was like 10 days before the actual surgery. And as it went, holy crap, I was like, my gosh, I didn't even tell you about it, and ended up getting the test done. And then when it came out successful, that's when I told you that it was working. But it was all something that I actually enjoyed. I enjoyed the whole adventure thing of it.
There were little victories together. Yep. We were, you know, mostly your victories, and they're my victories as well. But you know, it was like just getting through the process. And I think my UCLA team was amazing. They were so helpful to Eric in giving him the confidence and you know, relaxing him into the process and really answering his questions. UCLA is amazing. I love them. I love them.
Yeah, there's some great people. Well, look, Val, I want to go to you. I mean, in closing thoughts on this. I mean, we've talked about a lot of stuff. But being that it is National Living Donor Day and we're here, I mean, can you kind of, I don't know, put a final touch on this for us, please? And I'll come to you too, Alison.
Eric, I love so much what you said about don't overthink it, because you can always talk yourself out of any journey, right? So it's always, you know, hey, I like to exercise. I'm super tired though. I've been working all day. I would love to give a kidney, but my daughter might need it, or heck, I might need it. And I always tell people, if one of your kidneys go, they're both going. So don't worry about that. And God will provide for your child if something happens and they need it. So my thought process is always do what your heart tells you to do, because it will never steer you wrong. If your heart leads you to donate, start the process without overthinking it. So I always say, think now, pray later. And do what needs to happen. And I know it's Living Donor Day, but I do want to give a shout out about organ and tissue donation, because it saves the majority of the lives are from people who have met their maker, but they have things that are left here on earth for other people. And so I really implore people to sign up to be organ and tissue donors, because you can save a multitude of lives as you go to the next round. So it is so very important. I am a true believer in organ tissue donation as well as living donation. So please do what we can to help the world. And I think if we from COVID and we learned nothing about the strife in our country, we've learned that love supersedes anything. And if we do things out of love, we can change the world. And I think Jeffrey is a living testimony to that. Eric has changed his life for the better. And it doesn't matter if they hadn't seen each other in 35 years. Look at them now. It's like they never missed a beat. And that's the magic of organ tissue donation. It really is.
I love you so much. I love you so much.
Yeah. I'm going to say ditto.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah, I know it. Alison, because I've been directing people, what are people going to do in order to go down this road with Gift of Life Michigan? What are we talking about? Isn't there a special way they can sign up coming very, very soon?
Yes. So first of all, let's get a couple things straight. Deceased donation, living donation, two separate things. I know you're probably thinking, obviously, right?
Right.
People who are used to going to the Secretary of State's office or wherever, join the Michigan Organ Donor Registry, or whatever state you're from, you join the Organ Donor Registry. That covers deceased donation. Living donation up until now it is something you need to choose to do on your own, as we've been talking about, and you would work with a transplant hospital that specializes in kidney transplants. Easy to go online and look where they are. We have 9 of them here in Michigan. But Donate Life America is introducing a new living donor registry, which is very exciting. It's coming out later this year, so stay tuned, but it's really meant to kind of reduce some of the barriers that exist for people who may want to be a living donor, not really sure what to do, and really streamline the process. So coming later this year, you'll be able to, through the living donor registry, sign up to express your interest to be a living kidney donor. Now it's strictly for living kidney donation. And when you can just do it online, sign up online, and they'll send you a little test kit right to your home. It's like kind of like if you've ever signed up on the bone marrow registry or done one of those genealogy things. It's just like a swab of the inside of your mouth. And then you'll have instructions on where to send the kit, and somebody will contact you from there to walk you through the next step of the process. Mm-hmm. And so it's really meant to just, like I said, streamline this, make it easier for people, kind of like people are used to registering to be an organ donor after they pass away. Now let's make it just as easy to register to be a living kidney donor. And we'll literally send the kit to your doorstep. Send the kit to your doorstep, and we can go from there. So as I was saying earlier, let's normalize this. Let's just make this a process that everybody can do and find out more about. So I don't have particulars on an exact date that this is going to come out, but you can be sure that we'll make sure you share this with everybody once it's live, and people can get signed up then. But until then, I suggest just looking for a transplant center near where you live that does kidney transplants. If you just feel like you want to help somebody that you don't even know. If it is somebody you know, like Jeffrey, then you would work with the transplant center like UCLA or wherever it is that person is listed. And they have amazing people, as you guys know, that are there to walk you through that process and are happy to help you with any questions. And I think another important thing, Eric, that you stressed is maybe people are like, oh, I maybe want to find out about this, but I'm scared. Like you said, it doesn't hurt to just look into it. I mean, you had up until the last minute to change your mind. Mm-hmm. And so people can back out too. So don't be scared if you're going along and you find out, okay, maybe this isn't for me. But if you're interested in this and you want to know more, I just highly encourage people to look into it. It hurts nothing.
Well, yeah,
it's gonna save a life.
Absolutely, you're going to save a life, and you will reap those rewards. So I'm just so excited to be with you guys to be able to talk about this, and I mean it's really fantastic. Jeffrey, final thoughts, please.
Oh yeah, I just want people to know that just take the first step, like Alison said. Take it step by step, and just think that you could actually save somebody's life. Okay. You could be a hero. I mean, there's different types of heroes. There's people who fight for our country, but you don't have to do that. You can just step up and really change somebody who's going through misery. I can't explain it any more than that. And see them enjoy life. And I think, Eric gave you his point of view and how he feels about it. And I think it's amazing that we both are just kind of elated and enjoy about life. And life is not easy, as we all know, but you know what? It's much more enjoyable to face it, even with challenges, and just get through the day, and have the ability to love the people around you. And I think that's what you're really giving. You're giving a person an opportunity to continue loving their family and loving life. So, just if you're brave, it's not for everybody, but I think if you're brave and you have that ability, and you have to be healthy, or you can get healthy and maybe use it as an opportunity to do that, and just go with it, and I speak on behalf of, the people that were in my dialysis center. I never really met many of them, but we all looked at each other, and there's this certain look that,
Yeah. It's tough. Really, really tough.
Yeah. Just think about those people.
Yeah.
Thank you,
okay.
Eric.
The pleasure is mine. The pleasure has always been mine. I am so blessed to have you and your family in our lives. I love you very much. I am just so happy for you. Thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for coming into my life.
Yeah,
Alison.
vice versa,
Yeah, absolutely. Alison, from Gift of Life, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
I'm thankful for you guys. You guys are the best. I love your story.
It's great.
Yeah,
it's
we're
great.
going to keep on telling it. Thank you, Eric, for sharing it. And somebody asked, what's the artwork behind me in the chat? And that's Shepard Fairey, who did the Obama poster. So that's a Shepard Fairey. Yeah.
Oh,
So
very
I've been
nice.
following
Very
for about 20 years. Yeah. But thank you to your audience. I wish we could, answer their questions, but, just, keep on telling the story of Eric and I and find other stories to share. And, that's the energy that we all need. And thank you very much, Val. And thank you very much, Eric. And thank you very much, Allison.
Val, are you still there?
Love you. I am here. You can't see me, but I'm telling you, this has been fantastic. I love to see donors and recipients. It's one of my life's blessings because we spend so much time concerned about ourselves, concerns about what we got and what we can get. And I think this is such a selfless act. And so I just love to see the appreciation from Jeffrey, the love from Eric. I so appreciate it. I want to thank Allison from Gift of Life for inviting me. This message needs to be heard far and wide that we are responsible for one another. We are our brother's keeper. And we need to keep that as we move forward, just as a life lesson. Take care of each other, love each other, support each other, do what we can for each other. And organization donation is the way to do it.
All right. Well, we're going to do this again.
Sorry. Yeah, I believe Michigan can be on the forefront of this. I really do. And, it's really interesting. I'll say this last point. When I was with the people at UCLA, they pulled up a chart of where most donations come from in the United States, and it was the Midwest, they told me. There's the East Coast and the Midwest. And I just think the people in the Midwest have roots. I live in Los Angeles, and I know I can say that. It's just, so I really want to encourage and challenge Michigan to really, be one of the leaders in this, in donations.
Okay. Well, we're going to do this again and talk further down the road. So I'm looking forward to that. Allison, Val, Jeffrey, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this. This has been absolutely fantastic. So,
thanks, Eric.
Thank you. Hey, what? Next time, what we should do is we want to hear about somebody. One of your listeners. I know some of them are going to go be living donors, and I want to hear about how you inspired them to do it.
Well, there's actually is one that I know of who I've kept it quiet, but there is one member of the audience who is I'm not going to steal any of the person's thunder, but there was at least one that I know of who is thinking about that. So I think that's a great idea.
Cool. When the time is right, that'd be cool to hear about it.
Okay. All right, gang. Love you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Till next time. See ya. Thank you, everybody.